Welcome to my channel. This is Bridgetti Banda from BLive Media. Live video is still a relatively new but rapidly growing marketing concept. And so for those of you who are embarking on this journey, being authentic and vulnerable, which are both winning strategies, in front of a live video camera can be uncomfortable and somewhat daunting in the beginning. Hello everyone, and welcome to the CuppaChino Club's social TV channel. An empowered woman is someone who knows her strengths and isn't afraid to embrace it. And so we invite you to join us on our COVID-19 Conversations series. Thank you for joining us. Don't go away. We will be right back. If you're just joining us, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Bridgetti Banda from Cape Town in South Africa, and my co-host is Viola Manuel. She's an accomplished senior executive. She was the CEO of the Cape Chamber of Commerce and Industry, also the executive director of the Cape IT Initiative, as well as being a member of the Western Cape Premier's Council of Skills, to mention a few. And currently she serves as a non-executive with the National Sea Rescue Institute here in South Africa. And she's also the deputy chair of the Cape Town Stadium. And along with that, Viola also has got her own two entrepreneurial ventures called G&V Retail and Afri Wellness. And she's got an amazing 10-year-old son, Shay. And we've got a great special guest today. Also, our guest today is Mary Elizabeth Jackson. She's the award-winning author of the Poolicious children's book series. Mary's also a special needs and disabilities advocate, and she lives in Nashville in the USA. So we're happy to have her join us today because we want to talk a little bit about how COVID-19 is affecting her in her area. So welcome to the show, ladies. Great to have you here.
So happy to be here.
Thanks, Bridgetti. I was actually hoping Mary would start out singing like a good rock and roll song since she comes from Nashville, because that's the way they roll, that neck of the woods.
that could be it. Yeah, actually, she sings really well. You should see some of her stuff online.
Okay, so I need to go stalk you online.
My girls are singers. You should go to the Jackson Sisters on Jackson Sisters Music on Facebook, and they've got a single out. And my girls have incredible voices, and I've been sending videos this week to my mom who's in the hospital to cheer her up. So I usually make them sing in the house a lot for me. Come on, sing. I need to hear it. So anyways,
good.
Yeah, so there's amazing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your family. Beyond the author, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Well, we are the Jackson 5 because there's 5 of us plus a dog. So I'm very spread out with my children, 19, 16, and just 7 as of on Friday. And my book series was inspired by my son, but also my daughters. I had him very late in life, so I had no idea all this was going to happen. So it was just a beautiful surprise all the way around. And he inspires me every day for writing. I could just sit and write kids' books every day, because there's just so much. I mean, you have a 10-year-old, so you know that they're always inspiring stuff, and they're so full of wonder, and it's just like magic all the time. And, it just, oh my gosh, I am going to write a book. When I grow up one day, I want to be a 6-year-old. I think I've decided that, because I think it's way more fun than being an adult. But so we have, and I have 2 kids on the spectrum. My son is autism level 1, but also he has sensory processing and a language processing issue. So 2 of my middle and my youngest child both were nonverbal, and now they are fully verbal. I've spent years in, they have spent years in therapy. I've spent years taking them to therapy and then working with them at home. I'm a huge advocate for intervention services and therapies for children, because I've seen in my own house the turnaround and the incredible growth that happens in a child. So I would never say your child cannot do something. Like, I'm advocating for someone right now for their 7-year-old, 6-year-old, actually, she'll be 7 soon. And she's very far behind. The school system has completely failed her. But I have said to her, I'm actually working with this child personally, because I've said, I know we can get her caught up between now and school starting, because I've seen what my own kids have done. They have climbed mountains I never knew they would. I mean, literally going into kindergarten, I sat down with the school and I said, now my child is in a private Christian school, and it's a very small environment, which is perfect for him. And he's been very successful in it. But I sat down with them, and I was thinking about this the other day. When I went in to talk to them, I said, I can't guarantee that he can even sit in a class for 7 hours in a day, let alone 5 days a week. So I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know if he's going to have sensory issues all day. I don't know if he's going to cooperate. I don't know how he's going to learn. I'm not even sure how that process is going to happen for him. And he has just proven beyond what I ever imagined for him. It's absolutely amazing, the things that he's overcome and how well he's adjusted, and how his brain has just soaked it up. It's just so beautiful. And I don't know. Friday was his birthday, and I sat and thought about it, and it just kind of made me cry, because, you know, he was born. I had intrauterine growth restriction, so we were prepared that he wouldn't walk and he'd have brain damage. So to overcome the things that he has, and to deal with what we do deal with, I'll take that any day of the year, of the world, any day of my life, because it's been an amazing journey, and it changes who you are as a parent. You are no longer the same person you go in as a parent when you have a child who has needs of any sort. So I have been advocating since my 16-year-old was born. Actually, you become an advocate the day your children are born, because we do have to ask for things for our kids, take them to the doctor. They have something going on, we have to check, we have to talk for them because they can't. So that turned into a whole lot after Lily was diagnosed and was nonverbal, and I had to learn all that. And then she was abused at 4 or 5 in the school system. That changed my journey as an advocate. And so still it changes, because I go into IEP meetings in schools, and I help parents get the services they need for their child. So I guess we never see what our journey is going to end up like when we go into being a parent, for sure. And definitely not during this time. I know for everyone around the world, parenting right now is pushing everyone to a limit they never saw coming in our lifetime. We never saw this coming. So here in the States, I know you guys have been on lockdown, I think more restrictive than we have, and you have less cases, which I think is amazing. People are very restless in the United States. I personally feel like it's a lot of it's about, we're spoiled as a race of people. We're very spoiled as to what we have, and nobody wants to comply, because we're not getting to have all our go out and do this and go here and do that and all that freedom. So they are opening the states back up, even with cases rising, which is completely insane.
Okay, that's very interesting. That's the conversation we had on the show last night, actually, because the voices calling for an end to lockdown. We're on day 53, by the way, of
Yes,
quite
we
a
are.
hard lockdown, and we came out of it about 2 weeks ago. So our government have have actually given us various levels, and we've moved on to just one level down in terms of being a little less restricted, and mainly because they needed to open up the economy. And we were having the conversation last night to say that when you start analyzing where most of the noise calling for the end of the lockdown is coming from, you have to actually start talking about what is driving that. Could it be that the privilege of those individuals and the inconvenience of not having your nannies there, not this there, not being able to go out for dinner and so on, is that what could possibly be promoting this loud noise? So it's interesting, Mary, that you now talk about that.
Yeah, it's very true here. And I'll tell you a couple things. So there is talk of a hospital in one of our states that was falsifying their test results so they could move surgeries forward. And they have come forward confessing this. And now that state has had a rise of cases over the weekend, more than they've had in the last 3 weeks. And they're still wanting to lessen the restrictions of what's happening. And then the news this morning, I chose not to watch the news for about the last 5 days because, it's just so, we have to move. We have to stay in a place in our lives. And I am really working with my kids, and I'm sure you are with your son. And I'm sure Bridgetti has to, even though she has older children. We have to stay in a place of what can we do? What do we have control over, and what do we have power of right now? And staying in a place of positivity. What can we do today that's fun? We're at home, but you know what? It's not that bad. It's not the worst thing in the world. And for some people it is, because we do know the rise of abusive situations and suicides have happened during this time period. But for people who have a home life that there is not that going on, there are a million things you can be doing in your home. And even like that, sort of like that, stepping back and reinventing yourself and reinventing your family and transitioning into what we want to do, because all of us, both of you ladies, me, everyone I know, we have been running at a pace that is not logical or healthy. And it's like the world and God said, hold up, everybody. You got to get back to what reality is, because you're going to not only burn all of you out, you're going to burn the planet out too. So if we look at that bigger picture, I think it can give us some sort of a place to go back to go, okay, so this is much bigger than me. This is much bigger than my family. And what can we do that's healthy right now for us, for our mental well-being? I know that's been the biggest challenge as a mom, is not only keeping my 7-year-old busy and productive and not losing his mind and then everybody else losing their minds, but it's also the mental health well-being of my daughters, my college daughter especially. That's been, I would say, one of the most challenging things through this entire thing for me as a mom, is keeping them in a good place. And I'm not the only mom who's dealing with that. And it's not being talked about enough, I don't think.
Absolutely.
But back to the news, they showed New Jersey and the beach. You have thousands of people on camera walking like New York City in Midtown, like nothing's going on. I couldn't believe it. I mean, and here we're doing that step of getting back to whatever normal will be for us. But as soon as anybody says we're going to start to relax, you could go out here this weekend in the town I live in. We have about 52,000 people. Looks like spring break out there. It's unbelievable. And you've got tons of people not wearing masks. And, I know the economy, and my husband and I have gone back and forth on this, because we need the economy to rise again for our family because of the business he's in. Now, he's been considered essential because he's in the beverage industry. So he's continued to work through this, but they've also had 1,500 accounts close, except for grocery.
Wow.
And some of the restaurants who have, I don't know, but I think you guys are doing takeout there, correct, with your restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So we have done that here too. But we need, for him, and then for us, because we are an extension of him, right? Because he is the sole breadwinner, we do need the economy to bounce back. But I, like a lot of others that I guess feel that going back too fast is going to shut us back down. So, and we have 4 asthmatics in our house. So
wow,
I've gone into that mama bear protection mode, and some of it may be a little bit over here on this side, But like I was just telling my oldest this morning, it is my job to protect our family. It is my job to make sure we are compliant, and it's inconvenient, but we are compliant for a period of time or however long we have to be to protect ourselves and those around us.
Mm, absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to make those tough choices on, on behalf of the family. And I think the longer we've been in lockdown, the more pushback we're getting from our children who
Yes.
don't want to comply. Parents who saying, why do I have to wear a mask? Why do I have to do this, that, and the other? Why can I not go and see my friends? Why can't I go to the grocery store? It's a very challenging time.
Yeah.
And so how do we cope with this? We don't even know at this point when things are going to, I don't want to use the word normal, because I don't think we're going back to
No.
what we knew normal was. It's a
Yeah.
new scenario.
Yeah, but I do, Mary. I think you make an excellent point in the fact that this was a sort of stop, reassess, and it's almost a clean sheet of paper for us in terms of our families, in terms of our psyche, in terms of our overall and our well-being. We have a chance to just stop and start it again at a pace that makes sense to us now. But with our government as well, there's this huge discussion around how do we continue to save lives. So it's the value of lives, and then the value of lifestyle, and the economy, etc. And I must say, there's been a lot of sort of toing and froing, and you never please everybody. Big decisions in South Africa at the moment are being made around the education. When will our kids go back to school? We constantly check our privilege on the show, because we sit, we may not have come from privilege, but we definitely sit with privilege now, and we've constantly got to be thinking about the mom down the street that lives in a shack, is living with her mom and dad. There's about 8 of them in the shack. There is no Wi-Fi. There's like one device between the 8 of them, and so there's no way that there's going to be distance education, distance schooling. For most of the children in our schools at the moment, in our education system, they have not had any kind of meaningful educational engagement for the last 6 to 8 weeks. Nothing.
No, I'm so sorry. That's so hard, because
It's very hard.
So we've been fortunate enough, and I'm so grateful, because the public school systems here, the kids are not getting what like my little guy is getting, because he's in a small classroom. But because we were continuing to pay our teachers, what we decided on was, like, for the last 7 weeks, every morning from 9 to 10, my son has been on with his teacher and some of the classmates, and they have done their academics. Like, she was really awesome in sending home everything that he was already doing. So I have tried to continue that consistency for him, because 1, he needs it, and 2, it gives him something to do, and he's not going to regress in his learning, which is very, very important at his age, because children tend to regress over the summer somewhat, not when they're older, but when they're younger, it happens quite a bit. And especially when you have children who are on the spectrum, have challenges, disabilities, when they don't have those consistent schedules every day, and they're not getting that consistent feedback. Like, maybe you have a child who has, let's say they have some sort of a sensory processing issue, and maybe it has to do with cutting. Let's just go with cutting a paper, okay? Or they have fine motor skills. Say they're working on that every single day, and they're making progress, because some of it is retraining the hand, and strengthening those muscles, and showing proper usage. But and they're also getting desensitized to what their sensory issue was. If you're working on that every day, and then you go for a period of time and not, they're going to regress back to maybe prior to what the skills were they were learning. So all of this is maddening, and it's upsetting, and school will start in the fall, hopefully, if it does, for not only us, but all of your children, with children who are very behind. And that precedence of education is going to have to be constantly reassessed. They're discussing here about splitting kids up. And so, like, A group goes 3 days a week, and B group goes 2 days a week. Now, how is that going to work for people who have to work? I mean, like my sister-in-law is a paralegal. So her lawyer that she works for, the law group, it's a very large one. They have said that they are indefinitely not going back to work. They are effectively doing work from home. So they're not bringing them back to the office. It's indefinite right now. And so I have several friends who they work for, the companies have decided they're going to continue working from home and probably not even go back till August or later, because they're effectively able to do it from home. And that's fantastic for people like that. I have a girlfriend who has a daughter with Down syndrome. She is the sole income of that family, and her income has been completely diminished because of the situation. So you have a situation like her, and it's like, what can we do to help her? What can be done for her? And, everyone, I'm sure, I don't know how it works in your country, but here people have needed to apply for unemployment. The government is supposed to be giving them money to help them get through right now. And a lot of people aren't receiving the money. They're not receiving the checks, so that creates a whole nother problem.
That's an interesting thing, because, there's a lot of similarities with what you're saying to what we have here. In fact, we spoke about it just yesterday on the show. So it's interesting to hear the dynamics of what you're experiencing and the similarities with what we've got. There's just so much in common.
Go ahead.
And what's interesting for me is that, the US is always sort of, if it's going to be labeled, it's going to sort of be labeled first world. And South Africa is always sort of, we are part of Africa. It's always either developmental, developing countries, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to health and the emotions people are experiencing at the moment, this COVID has just not been a respecter of persons. It's not been a respecter of social standing. It's literally affected most people across the spectrum. One thing that I'm also finding very interesting is that the feelings people are experiencing, the emotions people are experiencing, the insecurity, the fear, the aggression, all of those things seem to be common no matter which country you come from. And our president is fighting fires all the time, but I've just read again that there are about 6 countries going back to a hard lockdown because they opened up too early. But one of the things, Mary, that I did want to ask you about was, are there anything, so you've spoken about consistency and keeping structure for your kids, but how do you know how other sort of special needs, people are being affected by the COVID lockdown?
Yes, I was just thinking about that while you were talking. We have families, and certainly disabilities and special needs affects the entire globe. So when you have a child who has a parapro with them every day at school, or they have a behavioral therapist that comes in, or they're working with a speech therapist and OT, things like that, physical therapy, this is affecting those children greatly, because now it's falling onto the parents. And even though the parents know that child, they don't have, I've just learned so much through my child's therapies, and why this works this way, why we do this, why they're using this with him. I've learned so much of the education behind the applications for getting a child through the weaknesses they have to build them into strength. And so it's very hard for some of these families. They're going through so much emotionally, because you have kids. I have friends who have children who are runners. I have friends who have kids who are violent. In these families, the stress level in a family on a normal day, kids are going to school and they have therapy and whatever they have. On a normal day, those family stress levels are 100 times more than an average family. And raising kids is really challenging, period. And then when you bring all this into it, it just puts it up over the top. So I have a lot of compassion for friends of mine who I know are really struggling and suffering through this. I do know all of the OT therapy places that I know are doing as much virtually as they can. So like my guy on Tuesdays has 2 hours where he's with OT and speech, like every week. So he's still getting that, even though we're not physically going in, but it's still helping. That's 2 hours he's spending with someone else who's working with him. and he's learning from them, and he's learning to take direction from someone else. And then I'm learning what they're doing with him so that I can apply it in my home with him. Because you do,
Okay.
no matter what therapies your child gets, if you as the parent or the family don't apply those things at home, your child doesn't have much chance for success of growth. So it really does, it's got to be a whole team that works with your child.
So yeah, so I think there's just, right now stress levels are through the roof. One of the things that I have been hearing people talking about is that they're just trying to bring stress levels down in the evenings, doing a lot of sort of family bonding, lots of board games, family games, lots of reading to their kids, and just sort of cuddling and snuggling and just trying to bring all those energy levels down towards the end of the day. And I think that's probably what we're all going to end up having to do is just manage those energy levels. But it's not easy. I mean, I have a new respect for everybody who interacts with my son on a daily basis. It's just crazy. I am frantically looking for phone numbers, to just say thank you for all the, I've just, in terms of communication with his teachers, just made a point of thanking all of them for the work that they do with him during, when things are perceived to be normal. But it's, good luck to you. And I think what we at the CuppaChino Club have really just been promoting is let's look out for each other. Let's try and help the person next to us. You can't do masses of, you can't do major things anymore. You can just do a little bit, and a little bit helps. And so that's really what we've been talking about. We've also, of course, Bridgetti's been advocating for like no fake news, because I think that creates more stress. As soon as you've got fake news and you start having to act on that fake news, it creates more stress and more uncertainty, which is not necessary at this time. So, we've been really pushing a lot of those kinds of messages at the moment.
Yeah, it's really good. And Bridgetti and I've talked about that with all the fake stuff out there. And, I think that one of the biggest words I think that comes out of this time is perspective and perception. Those are two huge words, because we are coming out of, we are going into this with a different perspective and perception. We're going to come out of it with a different one than we went into this whole thing, and different perspectives on ourselves, our children, our lives. We're getting to spend time with our kids, and I love my kids and I love to spend time with them, but we are able to kind of bring it back to where we have the majority of the influence on our children. And hopefully it's a very healthy one, as opposed to the world. And still, granted, they have all that access to social media that can affect them, but kind of getting back to that bonding of basics and a perspective of, this is affecting everyone. We are all one. COVID does not see a difference in anybody, anywhere, any color, any flavor. It doesn't matter what. And so it's teaching us a lot of lessons through this. That's what I see. A lot of lessons are coming out of this, and hopefully a lot of awareness and growth. And we will be stronger humans, not full of PTSD. Because a lot of people are going to have it. But I think also for me, it's showing the world our money is being put in a lot of wrong places. Teachers need to be paid more.
Absolutely. Medical
professionals need to be paid more. You know what I mean? There needs to be more support among families and friends and women and moms. And, nobody's perfect. Nobody is, but it's teaching us so much, isn't it?
Absolutely.
A complete reboot on every level is what we are experiencing. Families, businesses, every aspect of our lives has literally overnight changed forever. And I'd like to think that despite the fact that it's hard for so many of us now, that we're going to come out of this with a lot of good lessons, a lot of good changes. We've seen the major impact on the environment, how the lockdown has, changed for the wildlife out there. It's our air is cleaner. So I'd like to think that this is giving us a start to a better way of living, making us rethink the way we do things, the way we produce things, the way we consume things. So I think, I think we need to see that there are silver linings amidst some of the sadness that is happening. Mary, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been great to have you as a guest and just to get your perspective, you know.
Oh, thank you. I know it's amazing how so far away we are, but yeah, we're dealing with all the same things, and it's just amazing. It's funny. So I pray every morning, and my back porch has now become a sanctuary for me. And I'm telling you, the birds are louder than they used to be, and I think it's because they breathe better. Maybe, I don't know, but every morning I'm like, wow, you guys are screaming right now, you know.
Yeah.
So, it's amazing. But I do know I've tried to start I'm working on starting a Facebook page called Empowering Our Kids Now, and trying to have that be a safe place for parents and kids to come and have things to do there, like reading time and little experiments and science experiments and tutorials, and talking about, like tools and things that are helpful for kids right now. And just having it be a place that is a safe place, and a place that kids can, pop on the video, or, take 5 minutes from mom and dad, and it's safe, and they're learning. They need to learn. Their brains are just, gosh, my guy's like the ever ready bunny rabbit. I mean, we just walked today, and he's like, okay, mom, what are we going to talk about now? And I'm like, can we just walk? I mean, can we just,
Yeah, I'm there. I'm saying, like with Shay at the moment, it's like, Shay, just less talking, more eating, less talking, more drawing, less talking, more, but I must tell you, it's exactly what you say. It's been an amazing opportunity to be in the driving seat in terms of the things that he talks about, in terms of the things that influence him, in terms of the things that interest him. You really do. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of planning, but the reward of actually being there for him and hearing him speak and hearing him enjoy the discussion and conversation, it's just been phenomenal. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great chatting to you, and everything of the best for just the future, and just, trying to survive through all of this, and taking the corner to thriving. We might all just find ourselves thriving in these circumstances. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, ladies, so much for having me. And I pray for all of us that we can find the silver lining. We can find that resiliency and that strength and drive to go on, because we are intended to. All of us have purposes. And so we have to focus on that, not what we can't do and what we're losing, but what can we do right now? That is a free power we have.
Absolutely. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, ladies. We're out of time. Do join us again tomorrow. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you are in the business world, we've got a great lineup for tomorrow. So do join us again. Thanks, everyone. We're signing off for today. Have a great evening further, and goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.